Alright guys, I have a 2020 Ford Explorer here, and this has the infamous axle leak that looks like it is a oil pan leak. It's not. It's where the CV axle goes through and it goes into the hub actuator that goes through the front oil pan, and then it kind of leaks and trickles down, makes it look like you have an oil pan leak, and then you got people trying to sell you oil pan reseals and everything else. Well, on these, a lot of times you got to pull the motor for everything because it's packed in there so tight. There's actually a TSB out on it. There's several leaks on this unit. It only has about 60,000 miles on this unit, and it is leaking literally from all over the place, except for the engine. This is the new updated hub actuator. It's called an intermediate shaft, or a shaft now. An intermediate shaft to me was always from the steering wheel down to the steering rack, but now they're calling this an intermediate shaft. The part number for it is N1MZ3 Alpha 329 Alpha. The new updated CV axle that has to, what they do is they used to have this as the female and this as the male. Well, now they've changed it. Now this is the male end coming out and this is the female. So even if you did update this part, you have to update the CV axle as well. So this is the new updated CV axle. It's TX130, no, well that's the Ford number. The part number is N1MZ3 Alpha 427 Foxtrot. And then there's some other things I gotta do. CV axle nut that you're gonna need to replace is LB5Z 3 Bravo 477A. And then I've got a leak at the rear end, and I have a leak on the output shaft seal going forward. So sorry for the noise. This is a functioning shop, so you get what you get. There's a leak there, so I have the seal in the dust boot for that. And there's also a leak back there. I got the new seal for that. The whole drive shaft has to come out. It's a big job. The eccentric, the bolts that go around the rubber thing that's on the drive shaft, these are the bolts. There's 6 of them. It's a kit. W719511 S439. This is the seal that goes in the rear end. It's a really big, thick seal. It's L1MZ 4676 Bravo. And this is the output shaft on the transfer case going forward that I showed you that was leaking, the new seal kit from Ford. It's L1MZ 7 Bravo 215 Delta. The customer said he was kind of getting jerked around at the dealership and he was tired of being messing around with them, and then the independent shops didn't have the experience doing it, and then he was like, then I found you on YouTube and you went from the dealer to the independent shop, but you're a Ford specialist, so I knew you could knock the job out. And I said, yeah, it's going to be kind of an expensive job for all. The dealer would probably charge about $3,500 to reseal all that. I got the customer out the door for about $21, $22. He said, go ahead and do it. So let's get started. What you're going to get charged for just this and this alone, these two being replaced. And the reason why you're replacing this is this used to be an electronic clutch actuated four-wheel drive pack where they could turn on and off the four-wheel drive, and they realized it's faulty and it's just causing too many issues, so just go to all-time four-wheel drive. It's not really full all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive until the transfer case actually engages the transfer case shift motor. So things are rotating, it's creating a little bit more fluid wear and stuff like that, but it's not really doing anything. And they updated this seal. What was happening is this seal was an old yellow seal that we kept complaining about, and like every 10-15,000 miles these things would come back leaking again and again and again. So instead of them actually just updating the seal and letting us replace the seal, they were like, well, let's come out with this new hub actuator. Then they came out with a new hub actuator and they said cut the electrical connector off of it and reprogram the computer to not look for that hub actuator anymore. Okay, we did that. Well, now they're saying, well, that wasn't good enough because that hub actuator still had the old seal on it, which was still failing. Let's go ahead and actually create a bearing type device with no clutch pack system here with an updated O-ring, and still reprogram the transfer case control module to not look for the hub actuator control anymore, so it's engaged all the time. That's what fixed the problem. Now let's get into the repair. The dealer would typically charge about 7 hours to do this job. This job doesn't take 7 hours. I'm going to show you how I do it, and you can choose to do it however you want. Most of these vehicles are now out of warranty. They have had these problems. So we will see. I'm going to walk through it, and I'll show you how I do it. That's all I can do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start by removing this 32 millimeter nut. This is the Thor. Love this thing, Thor 1894. These are very difficult to get off because they have green Loctite all the way through the threads on these. It's a special socket. This is a TP45, which means it's a Torch Plus 45. These have more of a squared edge than a tapered edge, or than a round edge. If I can get this thing to focus, it's TP45. So 21 millimeter nut, TP45 center. Now that I got it loose, I'm going to switch over to electric and see if it'll do it. This is a nylon nut. Some people say you're supposed to replace these. I don't replace them. They're reusable. Then pull the link out and just let it hang. The next thing that you need to do is on the other side over here. Let me move the cart a little bit. Up inside here, there's a series of connectors and things that all need to come away from this. I pull them away because I like room. Some people say it's not necessary. I like the room. So I guess this is ABS wire out of the way. Just take the bracket. Let's just take the bracket this time. This time for conversational purposes and safety purposes and everything else. Another thing that you'll need is a 10 millimeter socket and an 8 millimeter socket. So we'll do just 8. So pull that off right here. The bracket out of the way. Can you guys see what's going on? Barely. Pull the bracket out of the way right here. Now it's free. If you want, you can pull this brake line back here on the body as well. I don't really think there's a reason to. But we can while we're here. Just to give you a little bit more room to move around and pop the line out of the holder. Gives you a little bit more play right there, if that's what you want, if that's your thing. Move the brake line up and out of the way. Now you've got reference to your bolts here on the back, or your nuts here on the back, they are 24 millimeter bolts. And these studs, they just tap through. They're splined in, so don't try to turn the other side. You turn this side, the nut side, and then you tap the studs through, or else you'll ruin them. So now we're going to pull the 24 millimeters out of there. Now, this is how you get them out of there. I know some of you may not like this, but this is how. Pick up a little bit on the knuckle. Pull your bolt out of the other side. Careful, because this knuckle now is ready to drop. Now your CV axle is ready to remove. You see it's nice and loose right here. So there's a couple ways to do it. You're not using the CV axle again for anything, so you can be done with it. You can either try to nicely go in behind it on the inside and push it out, or you can just yank it out of there. And there it is. Now, here comes the fun part. I'm going to take you off the stand. That's the hub actuator that you're after right there. That's the thing that's leaking all over everything. And that thing is now going to end up getting replaced with this one right here. You notice it's a little bit different design now. So now what I'd like you to do is, unfortunately, you're going to have to pull this lower cover off so you can kind of see a little bit more of what's going on. And there's all quick clips and 7 millimeters all the way around. Pull that off of there. Alright, so now we're going to go under here. We're going to take these quick clips. Pull that out. You're going to need to clean. That's part of one of the reasons too. Pull that out. That one out. There's another one here. Come on. Pull that one out. Pull this one out. And now you got a 7 mil, 7 mil, 7 mil, 7 mil. Let's pull those out next. Now, come under here, go like this. Come on, man. Seriously. Stubborn. So at this point you could let it hang if you wanted to. You could just pull this corner, like loosen it a little bit. Move this back out of the way, just let it hang, you're good. And then I can show you underneath what the leak looks like. There it is. Comes from this hub actuator right here, where this box and stuff is, and it comes down. What you do is reach up here on the front of this actuator. There's a connector right here. There's a white clip on the top of it. You pull the white clip towards you and then push down and unclip that connector. You heard it pop as I pulled this way with my nail and it unclipped, push down on it, pull it out. This connector is no longer going to be used. And this vent tube right here, trying to pull it off of there because it don't need to be there. So this right now, you're going to actually plug this off. This vent tube will no longer be used. It goes over to the vent tube. Goes up here, and then so it goes up in the engine bay. And then it goes all the way up there, up by the airbox somewhere. That won't be used anymore. So now what I'm going to show you, and then this next portion here is there's two ways you can do it. What I would do if I was you, pull this push clip connector here, and this is a 10 millimeter right here. Pull this off of here and fold this up underneath itself. Take the one little plastic clip out of there, off the fender wheel. The second one here. That one's off. Now take this. Tuck it up under itself right here, just a little bit, so you can expose this motor mount right here. This motor mount is right here on an angle, and there's 4 bolts holding it in. There's 1. Oh wait, on this one, oh, so there's 1 there. and then there's two there, and then up on top where that you got to move this electrical connector out of the way. There's another one above it. Back behind it. Yeah, you can get to it, but it's there. You can see the bolt up top and that motor mount. So on this one there's three because it's a 4-cylinder instead of the 6, but the 6-cylinder is done the same way. So we're gonna get to those. Next, there's a oh wait, this one's not blocked. This one's an open one. We don't have to worry about. So on the 6-cylinder, what you would do, let me explain to you now at this point. So now we're talking about, well, let's pretend we're playing 6-cylinder now. In the bottom here, in this hole, there is a 24mm nut that needs to come down. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a screw jack and you're gonna move it over here on the oil pan, and you're gonna lift it up with a piece of wood across the screw jack. Just enough to where that bolt starts to come up just a little bit out of there. Then you're gonna take a 15mm swivel impact socket with an extension and a 3/8, and you're going to stick it up in there, and you're going to zip that bolt out, the one underneath it out, the one on the other side out, and the one underneath that out. Now your motor mount will be free. Then you could take a pry bar and put it up inside that hole and push the motor mount off to the side, and it will stay on the rib. And what that does on the V6s is it lets you get to this bolt hole where right now you see it's not blocked. On the V6s it is. This only has 3 bolts that hold it in. One there, and then one over here. Yeah, one right here with my... Where's it at? Oh, no, right there. Down there on the bottom. One on the bottom there. It's back there. One in there. It's back over there. And then one up top up here. Somewhere back there it is. It's under that wire loom up there. It's up underneath that wire loom, right back in there. There's 3 13mm bolts. So that's why in the V6s you push that out of the way. You can get to those 3 13mm bolts. You don't have to drop the whole subframe assembly and catalytic converter and all this other stuff Ford talks about. It's all rubbish. Push that motor mount out. It'll sit on one of the casting ribs of the engine, and then you got free access to your holes, top, bottom, side. So let's go ahead and get this out of here. It's a 13mm with maybe 1 or 2 long 3/8 drive extensions. Okay, now I show you how easy it is for me to pull that out of there. I have to do it from back here. I apologize, but you see I got like 2 12-inch extensions and a 13mm swivel. Watch. There's one bolt right there, 13mm. Now I'm going to do the bottom one by the vent tube. There's another bolt, 13mm. Now, one more. Kind of hidden, so you got a feel for it. And there's the third one right there. Now I'll show you how to remove it. Just pull it out. Shit. forgot sometimes oil comes out too. Alright, this now is coming out. Now, come out here. Sometime when you come to the side, you have to twist it out, come out. On the V6 is more hard.
Oh, yeah.
This is the problem. Here, this is the problem right here. This is no good. No good.
The oiling?
It's garbage.
Yeah.
Broke it. But yeah, I'll show you over here. So this here, it develops flat spots. This here is got, you see, it's flat.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay round. It's more flat. And then here, watch when you do this. When you go like this, sometime you will see the crack.
Yeah.
The crack inside. No good. It's no good. The new one, it's much fatter. It's bigger.
Yeah.
And it's better. The material is better. So just take some grease or whatever from your hand. Just go ahead and put a little bit around. No problem. Then take a rag and wipe the hole, everything clean.
Yeah.
So now I clean a little bit inside. You got brake clean?
Yeah.
Here. I'll show you guys what it looks like real quick inside there.
Statue of Liberty. Ford.
And basically what that shaft does is it connects over here to this mini transfer case that then gets driven by the main transfer case, which is also leaking, which will be the next video.
For the same thing?
From YouTube.
Okay. Same thing, right?
Yeah. And two other people too. And your guy with you know the Bentley that we have, the Flying Spur?
Yeah. Jeff?
His friend.
Okay.
His friend is coming in tomorrow.
Ford? For the Ford?
No, his friend is coming in with the S550. Something about the auxiliary battery message.
Oh, okay.
即係揾嘅工程嗰個線 cap 咯，
得成個4年嘅啫。
嗰日佢哋表來要嘅 end cap 咪要 balance。
Okay.
可以，
Now, it's in, but it's not seated all the way. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm about to do.
Go quay rồi.
You can see it's in, but I'm going to press it in the rest of the way. Just quick.
Quay rồi á.
There it is.
I hear the pop.
That's it. As soon as you hear that pop, you can go ahead and put the bolts back in, start putting everything together. Silicone, just use some RTV in the connector, seal those pins up completely because you're not going to use them anymore.
Okay.
And just leave the vent tube up inside there because you don't need the vent tube anymore because there's no more clutch back. Yeah, there's no more reason to vent, so you just leave it up there. Or you could cut it out. It goes up by the airbox somewhere. I never really traced it down completely. But anyway, put the bolts back in. Good to go. tight. Just nice and snug. Don't gotta get too crazy with it. Now we can go ahead and put our CV axle in, the new one. It's already greased from the factory. Now I've got the splines lined up. Sorry, didn't mean to bump the camera. I've got the splines for the CV axle lined up and they're sitting on there. Now I got to kind of bump it on there to get past the ring. Just kind of tight. Okay, so it's in. Now we're ready to start putting everything back together so we can lower the vehicle a little bit to make things more comfortable. So, CV axle nut. I already gave you guys part numbers. I'm giving you a quick flash. You're going to want to pull that out of the box. Take the CV axle. See, it's full of grain Loctite. It's really hard to put these on and take them off. Really, on these vehicles, I don't like Ford spec. I feel like it's almost over torqued because every time I've done it, I've never felt safe. I typically torque these two right at about 175 foot-pounds and leave them. Put it back, there's a wheel hub in the back. Start to line up your splines. Put the nut on. Now you can go ahead and stick one of your, or you could do both your bolts if you want, your through bolts. And this is the reason why I said don't turn the nut side, because it's splined into the housing of the strut. You want to knock it out because you'll screw up these, and then you got to get a different style bolt. All right, now the two bolts are in. Now you got to tap them through. Be very careful doing that because you don't want to hit the brake line. Now I can put the nuts back on. I think those are torqued to about 110 foot-pounds, but I really don't. I've been doing it so long, I put it together now. I just know what works and what doesn't work. Now take your what is it? It's an 8. Oh, 21, sorry. 21. And your TP45. All right, with that nice and snug, now we can go ahead and start putting our line back together. And there may be like one or two things that you guys do a little bit different than me. You know, we don't need to compare apples to oranges or whatever, you know, or apples to apples. This is just how I do it. The plastic stuff just needs to be hand tied. It doesn't need to be anything special. A couple little 8mm screws. You got the torque wrench? Take a screwdriver and stick it in there. Grab your 32mm socket. You don't have to use a torque wrench. I just want to verify that I at least hit 175 foot-pounds. Oh yeah. Probably right at Ford spec, honestly, because that Thor is so strong. But anyway, hammer that sucker on her. You don't really need to use a torque wrench. As long as you get decent impact and you get that sucker rolling, it's got enough damn Loctite in there to stop the World Trade Center from falling over. That was a joke, by the way. Ed, if you guys, I can make those jokes. I spent time overseas. Anyhow, that's it. That's the job, you know. Now, put your tires and stuff back on, torque your lug nuts, and what you'll have to do is you'll silicone that connector shut, the end of the pins. And then you'll have to program the transfer case control module, take it to the Ford dealer, drop it off, tell them to program the transfer case control module and say CV axle replacement. They know what to do, because what that'll do is that will stop the transfer case control module from trying to help control the four-wheel drive, because now it's not there anymore, it's gone. This is the fix for that leak. Put your little inspection cover and stuff back together underneath. The reason I'm not doing that right now is because I got another video to shoot after this and another video after that. We got 2 more leaks to fix. If you guys want to see those 2 other leaks, let me know. Thanks guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you as always. Be blessed, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. If you were going to bill out that job, and you don't do it all the time like I do, that job would bill out for, you're probably going to charge about $150 for the actuator.
Oh, you hear that?
Yeah. It's the rack.
Yeah.
It's another Ford Explorer. The rack is shot. This guy came in not too... Yeah, it's shot. The rack is shot. Go back.
Something like this. Oh.
Yeah, the rack is no good. The guy came in here probably 6 months ago and he got the whole front end rebuilt on that. Control arms, struts, big job, $2,600 job, alignment, all kinds of stuff. 6 months later, the steering rack takes a shit. It's starting to crunch on turns. Ah, good old Ford. All right, so back where we were. You're probably going to sell that hub actuator for about 140, 150 bucks. And you're going to sell that CV axle for about, honestly, I think it's like 175, 180. And then the nut, it's a big nut. It's a specialty nut. It's probably going to be around $20 for a CV axle. The other stuff you don't need to replace. Ford says it's one-time use. It's not one-time use. Anyway, overall, if you were being honest, and you were a new person, it would take you about 2.5 hours to do that job. So I could see that job costing somewhere around $700-800 bucks for that corner. So 2 hours, $300 bucks, $350 plus about $300-400 in parts, then some tax and stuff. You might be looking at $850 just for that one side. If you actually go by full book time, you could book up to 5 hours on that job. We all know it doesn't take 5 hours to do that job. And then the V6 could be up to 7.5 hours, even though it only takes like an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half. So you try to figure out what you think. Maybe give your customer a little break on something like that. You know, us techs know that they don't take that long, and split it down the middle. Then, you know, instead of 7.5, you know, it takes you an hour and 15, and it's just because of some incompetent engineer that wrote how to take that part out that didn't know. Ask me how I know, because I've talked to the other guys that work with the guy, and when he wrote how to remove it, the guy wasn't very bright, so he added a bunch of extra stuff in there that was not even necessary. So that job would book out for about $850 bucks ish. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Thank you guys for watching. As always, sorry this is a longer one, but this has been, I've been waiting to do this video for years, since 2020, since I first came out with my first way on how to do this, and nobody showed me how to do it. My first video that went kind of viral back in the day, and I was like, oh my god, don't tell me I have to pull this engine because I gotta remove the oil pan because of this oil leak. Come to find out, it wasn't that. It was the actual hub actuator above it leaking down onto the oil pan, making it seem like, and that was the first vehicle I had in with I think like 20,000 miles on it, was already leaking. Check that before you go after an oil leak, because to seal those, to reseal that engine, you gotta pull the engine out. You don't want to do that. Okay, don't forget about the programming, the transfer case control module, whenever this job, the repair is done, and to seal up those wires with some kind of silicone, or cut the wires off and heat shrink each one of them individually. It's up to you. Be blessed. Take care. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video.